Hello, my name is Mauricio Ramirez. I'm a student at Bishop Ward, and I'm also a member of the summer mentoring program of Central Avenue Betterment Association. Today, we have with us Mr. Duffy. He is running for Wyandotte County Mayor / CEO. So the way that this interview is gonna go is I'm gonna ask you the more important questions, and if we have time, I will skip around to the miscellaneous questions, the smaller ones, just to bring up anything that we might have not been able to pick up,
Sure.
or that you haven't put out there.
Okay.
Let's see. When it comes to experience, what is key to developing a good community?
Developing a good community. I think the biggest thing is an openness of the people in that community to communicate. Just getting out, talking to one another. Unfortunately, I think society has moved away from actually talking. We get locked into Facebook, we get locked into our phones, and there's a lot less what I'm used to, porch sitting, and actually saying hello to people, getting out and having conversations. It's too easy to hide behind a screen. So probably the most important thing in developing a community is developing communication. Obviously, there's some problems in moving away from technology, but it really does require us getting out and doing face-to-face a lot more. So
I do agree on that a little as well, but relating to that, do you believe that we can also communicate through technology? Do you think it's also a way that we can communicate with those around us without having to be face to face, especially at a time like now where COVID is a big problem, and for those who aren't vaccinated, they could get it. Or like the elderly, do you believe that technology is a good tool as well at the same time?
Yeah, obviously we are in a day and age where we have to have technology. My wife and I are currently on sabbatical away from a ministry that we were a part of, and we served at a nursing home in Overland Park and did church services there. It was Saturday morning, but it was a Sunday morning church service for them. So when COVID hit, we had to quarantine. They had to be locked away. And for the elderly, it was traumatic. Not just COVID, but the isolation, not having people to talk to, not having people to see. It's a fundamental chemical reaction that's required, oxytocin, something that happens in our brain when we see somebody and they smile. It's that happy chemical. So it's really important. And what happened with us and the push that we had was to make sure that we could still communicate with them. They weren't computer savvy at all. So we worked with the activities director and bought the equipment, and they had in one of their dining halls, they had a solid wall of windows. It took 3 months for us to get back, but they had a solid wall of windows in their lower dining room and a patio outside. So we set up speakers inside, brought a monitor outside, set my wife's keyboard up, and we had church. And it didn't matter whether it was raining. It didn't matter whether it was too hot or too cold. It didn't matter what was going on. We understood the need that people had for that face-to-face. Yes, technology is important. We need that, obviously, for business, for living anymore. What would we do without it? But fundamentally, the human need is that interaction, that face-to-face, need to see eye to eye. And being able to communicate isn't just about words on a page. It's about your body how you move, your facial expressions, eye contact. You can tell whether somebody's genuine, whether they're lying. There's 1,000 different ways of communicating without ever saying a word if you're standing in front of somebody.
That is true. I agree. I agree on that as well, on the interaction, that we need some part of it as well. But moving on, how are you going to provide and how are you going to help for the community, for Wyandotte County community?
So the past 3 months have been a lot of walking, a ton of walking. I've talked to thousands of people. I've been in every district, just about every precinct in the city. So when you talk about community, every single community has different needs. They have different problems that they face. Armourdale, Coronado, Strawberry Hill, Argentine, go out to Bonner Springs, Edwardsville, Piper. Everybody's got a different situation, but ultimately it comes down to people over policy, people over politics, and people over politicians. If I make it into the mayor's office, my goal is to actually get out into these neighborhoods and interact with these community groups and bring them together. Have community meetings that are multi-community meetings, bringing people from each of the districts in and finding out where we're at as a city and as a county, and working from that angle. It's hard to say, what you're going to do exactly until you're in the situation, but communicating, we just went over it, and talking to people, finding out what they need, and not just one size fits all, but finding out what they need specifically, and then working toward that goal with that community, and developing a plan, a program, and then implementing it and accomplishing a goal. That's how you're supposed to work.
Okay, all right. I see what you're saying, and I see the type of goal that you have in mind, and I agree with that. I do feel like that we need to come together a little bit more and come up with a plan in order to properly move all together. If you just went to one part of the county and talked to them and set up a program with them, you're excluding everybody else.
Right.
And I agree with that.
Don't want to disenfranchise anyone.
Yeah. So as Mr. Galicia earlier, or Edgar, as you know him, he said that we did research on you. I did research on you because everybody else who is part of this program, we got a person or a candidate who we all researched about a little bit. Mm-hmm. I went on your website and I looked throughout everything and saw that I really didn't find much of like your working experience. And that's one of the main questions I wanted to ask. What is your previous work experience? What do you have to offer to the role of mayor/CEO with your past working experience?
Okay. Well, it's a fair question. I guess anybody that would be pursuing this position. As far as the jobs that I've had, I have worked across the board, blue collar jobs. I have spent 20 years building houses, all the way from pouring foundations to finished trim. I have built houses from the ground up, and I have worked in the transportation industry as a manager over a team of drivers, 300 some odd employees. So I understand some of the logistics involved. Obviously, 300 some odd employees versus a county, there's a little bit of a difference. But the biggest thing that I bring to the table, and probably the most important thing I bring to the table, is I'm an evangelist. I'm a minister. I love Jesus. My heart is to serve God and serve people. So when I talked to you earlier about stepping outside, being outside and preaching at the nursing home, that's part of it. That's only one aspect of outreach. That's only one aspect of serving people. But as far as politics and stuff, I don't have a lot of experience with politics. I've got a whole lot of experience with people. I've got a whole lot of experience with talking to people and meeting them on their ground. So in a diverse community with a lot of different cultures, a lot of beautiful, rich cultures, it's an easy step for me.
Okay. Correlating to this topic that we're talking about, you speaking with others and being able to communicate, one of my questions is when it comes to team building or communicating with others, if you were to become mayor/CEO, the way you communicate with others and the way you meet with others, is that going to change at all?
No. It really can't. I am who I am. I'm always going to talk to people the same way. You have to. I mean, treating anybody differently based on where they come from or based on their race, their gender, their socioeconomic condition, that's foolish and childish, frankly. I'm always going to treat people with respect because they're people. They deserve respect, not based on any particular acquired attribute, but simply because they are alive. They exist. God created them, and they are valuable based off of that. And I will always respect and operate from that paradigm.
Another question that comes from that is how do you feel about bringing your religious faith into politics? How do you feel about that? And why so? Why do you incorporate it with your politics and everything that is going on that you're running for?
Okay. Again, a very good question. The truth of the matter is, in college I studied theology. I was a theology major and a history minor. Okay. And studying history, we looked at the Constitution, how it was built, and we looked at the freedom of speech, where our First Amendment, where they say our separation of church and state comes from. But if you read it and actually study it, really dive into it, that's not what they were talking about. They were talking about not ever having a state church. Okay, they didn't want a state church because the state church of England was where a lot of the persecution came from. It became a political power, a political entity. But bringing my faith into politics isn't coming in and saying you're going to worship my God. It's going to say this is how I'm going to operate. This is my moral basis. Mm-hmm. These are the lines that I won't cross because this is my faith. Has nothing to do with bringing the two together, politics and religion, but it has everything to do with bringing faith and moral character into the office and operating and making decisions from that foundation. So,
and I just wanted to mention, these questions aren't to be personally attacking you or anything. It's just to
I absolutely have no problem answering these questions, and I don't feel that way at all.
Okay.
It's actually refreshing to get a solid question like this. Makes me know that you guys are thinking.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that out.
Sure.
It's just a forum to get to allow you to be able to leave your message for those who are going to watch this.
Absolutely.
Not only that, for them to understand who you are and where you're coming from.
Right.
These aren't to personally attack you, none of that. So I don't want you to feel in that environment. And if one of these questions does feel like that, you can just honestly tell me I prefer to move on to the next one, and we can do so. If that's
I don't even feel a little bit uncomfortable.
okay.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you. All right. Um, my next question is, when it comes to handling Wyandotte County, when you if you were to become mayor slash CEO, how will you handle it? Are you going to be upfront with it, or are you going to take time to see everything, like see your environment around you and assess the situation, or are you going to do a little bit of both, where you're going to be in the trenches in there and be assessing the whole situation as you're in there?
Well, I think wisdom would dictate the last thing you mentioned. Get out, find out what the situations are, assess all of it, find out what the people that I'm serving think, feel, what they're dealing with specifically, and then make decisions based on that. I think for a long time we've been operating our government from, and there's nothing at all negative about the current mayor. But I think the situation that we're currently in is a power struggle, and it is more big business and big money over people, and it's upside down and backwards. It should be people first, always. And this is our community. These are our families. These are our neighbors, our brothers and sisters. This is where our children are going to grow up, and what we've done is flip the whole thing on its head, and it needs to be people first. And back to the question at hand, always step into the trenches. How can you assess anything unless you're face to face with it? So, and then base your decisions off of that, off of wisdom, off of wise counsel, and those are all biblical principles. So.
Okay. My next question is, I've seen on your research, like I said earlier, we researched you and everything. I've seen that you've done a community work, and you've mentioned that you've done community work, like, for example, the nursing home and the whole situation and everything, all of that. How does that prepare you? How does that prepare you to be mayor slash CEO? How does that fill the role?
Well, I think probably that's the one thing that prepared me the most. Over all of my experience in school, all my experience in management, giving of yourself is always the best experience when you're looking to get into a service role. And the truth of the matter is, politics was initially a service. It was supposed to be a community service. It was never supposed to be a career. It was never supposed to be something that drug on for an entire lifetime. Politicians in the early days left their fields for 4 years and came back to their fields because that was their life. And the idea of a long-term politician never entered their mind. It was how the early government was set up. But here, I think a lot of the people in politics have forgotten who they serve. They've forgotten that they're servants at all, and they are looking at the position more as a business. And we are the people are the servants. Again, it's a switched up role reversal. And it doesn't make any sense to me. But the things that I've done do prepare me, because I do have a heart for the people. I do have a heart for their needs. And I've seen way too many people that are struggling and really hurting right now. Fixed income people, our retired veterans, people really struggling. And our government locally is not stepping up like it should.
Okay. And I see where you're coming from, and there's some points that I do agree on, that some roles are switched and some roles need to go back and need to be serving the people more a little bit, and I do agree on that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What are the areas of that you might disagree with me on, just as out of curiosity? Because I know you got thoughts. You're a smart guy.
Yeah. If I'm honest, I feel like I do agree on the whole role situation being switched up, but I feel like there has to be a small line where they do have to serve the people, but at the same time the people have to serve back, because if the people aren't serving back, the mayor slash CEO or whatever position that it may be, they won't have the capacity, they won't have the heart, because they're going to be serving for so long. The people might not see them as servants anymore. They might start treating them worse and worse, and that's when the servants just won't be servants anymore, and they won't be treated as that. And let alone, not only that, but it also creates a situation where the mayor slash CEO or whatever position it may be, they run out of power and they don't have a voice anymore. They're not the voice for the people anymore. So there's no position, there's no place for them anymore. So I feel like I do agree that there should be servants, but I also feel like it should be a 50-50 thing between the people and the mayor slash CEO.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. It was just a question, because you look like you had some reservations back there. I totally agree with you. It is a community effort, and I think that's the part that's been lost. I really do believe that. I believe that a lot of the people in our communities have kind of given up hope that they would be represented fairly and accurately according to their situation or according to their neighborhood needs. And I think what you said is right on target, and I think a lot of that comes through education. We need to educate our children on how our government's supposed to work, and right now that's not happening in our schools. I know that's not this interview, but
it's totally fine. It's just to lighten up the mood, and that's
Sure.
totally fine. And I like that you asked me a question, because it involves, not only does it's not just a one-on-one thing where it's just me interviewing you constantly answering questions, but you also involve me in this interview. You ask me a question, and I like that. That's one of the things that I like about this type of thing that I'm doing in this summer mentoring program. I like to get involved. I like to learn about my community. I like to ask. I like to be asked questions, because I'm always going to be in a constant learning state. I'm always going to be constantly learning anything new, and I like how you involve me in that, and you ask me that question, because it makes me feel that I am learning. It makes me feel that I'm allowed to learn. That's why I like that.
we all have a measure of intellect, and like I said, I've talked to thousands of people, and out of those thousands of people, I haven't found one person that didn't have an opinion. I didn't find one person that didn't have. I haven't found one person that didn't have an opinion, that wasn't smart. They know what they feel. They know what they think, and everybody has a right to speak that. Everybody has a right to live into that. It's our Declaration of Independence, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those things are all part and parcel of who we are as a community. So, all right, back to the interview. Let you get on.
That's all the questions there really is. So I would like to thank you personally, and thank you for all the time you've given us, and for you being here today and allowing me to interview you, and allowing us to record this whole session and this interview for the people. And if there's any message you would like to leave for them, or anything you would like to tell them, go right on ahead.
Okay. Well, they just held up a sign saying I had 5 minutes. So, if there's one message that I could put out there for all the people in Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas specifically, it's this: we are stronger together. And I think right now, our government locally, all the way up to the federal, seeks to divide. They seek to separate us. They seek to put walls between us. And sometimes those walls are a mask. But the truth of the matter is we are stronger together. We are strong as a community. And the government doesn't always have the answers. But we as a people can work through most of this stuff on our own. We are intelligent. We are resourceful. And if I'm elected as mayor, I will work diligently to work in our communities with our community leaders to resolve the issues that we have and to make this government work for the people, by the people. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy, for sharing your information for us, and we wish you the best of lucks for a better future for Wyandotte County.
Absolutely. Thank you.